I tracked 4 recurring spirits appearing in every session. One client showed me a faded photo dated April 12th, 1978. My hands shook as I stared at the images. Was I losing control? My living room felt unnervingly cold, the usual warmth of my worn armchair offering little relief. Grey hair framed my tired face. I focused on the faded photo in the client's trembling hands. April 12th, 78, I murmured. The date scratched at something deep inside me. This picture. Where did you find it? I asked softly, voice trembling. Her eyes flicked away. A family attic, she whispered. I nodded slowly, my heart sinking. Each session featured the same 4 spirits: a young woman in a lace dress, a man in a soldier's uniform, a child clutching a doll, and an old man with a hat. The faces appeared again and again, the same expressions, the same faint smiles. Clara Jenks's influence loomed behind this. Her network had access to actors and video editors. I knew she was planting false images, rehearsed spirits crafted for public eyes to discredit me. But why reuse the same ones for every client? What purpose did it serve? I switched on my laptop and pulled recordings from the past 3 days. Layered side by side, the identical silhouettes flickered, frozen mid-gesture. My pulse quickened. These weren't random, the images connected, edges matching as though they formed a single ghostly puzzle. A tapping sound from the hallway jolted me. I nearly dropped the laptop. My breath slowed, just the old wooden floor creaking, or maybe a neighbor visiting late. I wiped sweat from my brow. Doubt seeped in, spreading like dark ink in water. I replayed a client's session from yesterday. As the spirit appeared, a weak echo overlapped from 2 days prior. Something aligned. The spirit's positions formed a grid I'd never noticed before. Could it be a code? A message? Or just another trick by Clara's team? I dialed a trusted colleague, a skeptic who helped me see through fogged moments. Do you still believe these spirits show genuine energy? I asked quietly. Her voice was steady over the line. Patterns like that suggest fabrication, not the real thing. The words landed heavy. I sank back into the armchair, slow to move, rubbing the wrinkles around my eyes. My clients trusted me to guide them, but if these sessions were layered with fraud, everything would collapse. The clock ticked louder. 72 hours until the exposé went live. Clara aimed to crush my reputation here, now. Clients once devoted had started pulling away. Social media whispered doubts about my authenticity. Every public share of spirits appeared staged, rehearsed. I was losing more than income. My very foundation wavered. I fixed my gaze on the faded photo again. The date stood out sharply. Could it point to the source of this repeated scam? Perhaps that attic held more than memories. My fingers trembled as I typed April 12th, 1978 into a search window. Minutes slipped by unnoticed, the smell of old paper lingering in my nostrils. Then a headline blinked onto the screen. Local family claims haunting linked to 1978 tragedy. I swallowed hard, wiped tears from creased cheeks, and made a decision. Whatever Clara was planning, I needed to expose her method first, before everyone saw me as a fraud. The repeated spirits were the key. If I could decode their pattern, I might unmask the entire lie hiding in plain sight. I rose slowly, joints stiff. The weight of doubt settled on my chest, but beneath it sparked necessity, cold and clear. The next 72 hours would decide everything. The old community centre felt colder this afternoon. The worn linoleum floor creaked under each slow step as I entered the session room. A grey digital clock on the far wall showed 09:14 a.m., marking just under 64 hours until the exposé would go live. Time felt sharper now, more urgent. I wiped my palms on the apron draped over my faded dress, steadying myself. The last days had left a trail of empty chairs and cautious clients. Those who still came treated me with careful distance, trust fractured into nearly visible pieces. Today's task was clear. Search this room for hidden devices, anything to confirm the fears I'd nursed in silence. Before the scheduled afternoon session, I slid aside the light curtain hanging by the small window. My fingers paused where the fabric brushed a faint bulge in the peeling wall behind. I traced the edge, then spotted a tiny lens, barely larger than a pinhead, catching the morning light with a cold glint. A hidden webcam. My eyes dulled briefly, then sharpened with resolve. This was Clara's latest move, covert surveillance. The angle was deliberate. It didn't focus on the clients seated or the spirit images swirling on the screen. Instead, the lens aimed squarely at me, recording every gesture, every worn expression, every hesitation. I stepped back slowly, heart settling into a heavy rhythm. This wasn't just evidence gathering. It was a message. To trap me in my own space, to flip the script and make me the subject. The cameras were Bayesian traps, recording, waiting for me to slip or reveal too much. I pictured Clara's team, editing every second, spinning a new version of truth. As the clock ticked, I prepared for the next session. 2 actors posing as new clients entered quietly. Their smiles were too measured, eyes scanning the corners where camera operators hid among them. They answered politely, but avoided full eye contact. One clutched a notebook. I suspected another recording device was disguised beneath ink and paper. Their presence was a thinly veiled rehearsal in deception, a reminder that every word I spoke was ringed with suspicion. I greeted them with the soft voice I had mastered, calm, persuasive. But inside, my mind raced. The moment trust cracked, the door to ruin opened wide. I needed something concrete to break Clara's cycle before the countdown ended. Across the room, a faint whirring whispered from a speaker hidden in the corner. It was subtle, easy to dismiss. I slid a small mirror from my pocket and angled it toward the sound. The reflection revealed an embedded microphone concealed within a decorative panel. Clara's network was thorough, invasive. Surveillance wasn't just passive, it was active infiltration, catching every gesture, every slip in my visage. I noted the devices carefully, making mental maps of their fields of view. If these recordings surfaced online, doctored to mock or ambush me, I'd have no defense. Clients' withdrawal was already noticeable. This would push more away. As the session ended, the actors exchanged a barely perceptible glance. No words were spoken, but their silent defiance filled the air. I sensed their mission stretched beyond these walls, sending edited clips into a web of deception, aiming to destroy my credibility long before the 64-hour mark faded. I sat down slowly, a cold weight settling in my chest. The hidden camera's gaze burned insistently in my mind. A quiet, relentless witness, not to spirits, but to me. In this room, surrounded by silent watchers, I realized the exposé wasn't just an event. It was a trap already closing, and I had less than 3 days to dismantle it. The kitchen clock ticks in near silence as I shuffle papers across the table, the faint scent of stale coffee lingering in the air. My hands tremble slightly. Grey strands slip loose from my bun as I prepare to confront the actors one by one. Each encounter tightens a wire around my nerves. 68 hours remain before the exposé hits the web. Tony is the first, the youngest among them, with a guarded gaze. I settle into the worn chair, aligning my recorder under the table where it can't be seen. My voice is steady, though my throat feels raw. Why the repeated spirit images? What comes next? He shrugs, eyes flicking to the door. Don't know. Just following orders. I press, voice softer. Orders from Clara Jenks? Are they planning something beyond the sessions? Tony's lips thin. Look, lady, we're just actors. Show's on the money, not the spirits. No answer, only calm deflection. I rise with effort. The weight in my joints insists I move slow. Next, I meet Clara's oldest accomplice, Ruth, in a quiet cafe across town. Her smile is brittle. You're chasing shadows, dear. The videos? We keep backups. We'll release them if the price isn't right. Her words hang heavy. They've recorded everything I said, every whispered encouragement. Backup copies mean control slipped from me hours ago. The threat is no longer hidden. At home, I replay the recordings on my small audio player. Scratchy clicks embedded deep in actors' props, seized during last week's session. The sound tells me everything. No accidental tap, no improvisation. Every move was scripted, recorded, edited on Clara's command. By 38 minutes in, a realization grips me. They aren't just waiting to expose me. They're shaping the narrative. A subtle edit here, a cut there. Enough to paint me a fraud, regardless of truth. The final conversation is with Alice, the youngest actress, who watches my hands as I speak. You think you can stop it? Clara's got more tricks than you imagine. Those videos go viral. Before you finish thinking, they'll be online. Her lips twitch in a half smile. I swallow hard. My exhaustion cuts deeper. The rhythm of my breath roughens. Each meeting unfolds like a thread, unraveling the safety net I once had. Every denial, every evasive answer, stings sharper than the last. The clock above my kitchen ticks louder now. I lock eyes with my faded calendar marked April 12th, 1978, the date linked to the haunting that inspired my work. The irony weighs bitter. That day is becoming the anchor of my undoing. I gather the recordings, my hands shaking as I push the chair back. The actor's plan is ahead of me. They bait me with videos, promises of payment, and a public spectacle waiting to explode. If I don't act soon, my name will vanish under Clara's crafted lies. The network's editing software will splice every session, every phrase, turning my careful words into a sentence of ruin. My home, my refuge, will brace the first tremors of collapse. The kitchen light dimmed low. I form a new plan, one I hope arrives before the countdown ends. 68 hours and falling. I cannot afford another wasted breath. The clutter of papers and worn books filled my office, dust motes drifting lazily in the pale afternoon light that slipped through the narrow window. A faded calendar taped to the wall counted down. 48 hours left. My fingers trembled as I pushed aside a faded photo dated April 12th, 1978. The small mirror on my desk caught my tired eyes, ringed with dark circles, grey hair loose around my face. The whispers multiplied. Negative comments spilled onto online forums, unmasking cracks in my carefully built trust. I skimmed through recent client emails. Each message carried suspicion. Words like fake, manipulated, losing faith. One read, "If those videos are true, I want no part of this." The weight pressed in. Clara Jenks's strategy was unfolding, not just hidden cameras, but a tidal wave of doubt, fueled by actors pushing manipulated recordings. Tony's veiled answers, Ruth's rigid warnings, Alice's sly reminders, each pointed to one aim: ruin. My worn chair creaked as I sank into it, hands clutching the frayed apron in my lap. The public doubted me. Testimonials I'd treasured had mutated into weapons. The client trust built over years was slipping away. With every cancelled appointment, the damage deepened. Every withdrawal threatened to topple more than just my livelihood. A message blinked on my laptop. A new post from an anonymous account, quoting a client voice. I felt tricked inside her sessions. My breath caught. Cancellations came faster now. Slots emptied as I stared helplessly. The room felt stifling. I recalled my last session, the careful words I chose to counter the hidden cameras, the silent rebuffs to actors posing as clients. Their challenge was louder than words. They marked time ticking down to my undoing. Exhaustion weighed heavy on my shoulders, yet something steeled within me. Guilt gnawed softly. Was I responsible for the growing mistrust? But surrender would mean losing everything: my name, my clients, my home. I could not let Clara's network write my final act. I moved to the laptop, fingers steadying despite the tremble. I opened secure channels shared only with trusted colleagues. The voice on the other end was cautious but firm, outlining steps to reclaim the narrative. No more silent endurance. The choice became clear: fight or fall. Outside my window, the grey sky mirrored my resolve. I would expose the orchestration before her fabricated videos reached the public eye. I plotted careful responses, prepared rebuttals, and began compiling proof, evidence of manipulation, of scripting within the very recordings Clara's actors took. Despite the fatigue sinking into my bones, the ache behind my eyes, I refused to disappear under whispers and shadows. Not now. Then came the note, slipped quietly under my door. We're watching. You can't stop this. My hands shook harder, but I folded it silently, a spark igniting beneath the weight. Clients cancelled, doubts multiplied, time shrank. Yet I chose to stand. The battle for my reputation was no longer abstract. It was raw and immediate. Clara Jenks had moved first. Now it was my turn. The clock marked 46 hours. I was far from beaten. The cafe was nearly empty. I sank slowly into a rigid chair, grey hair brushing my collar, fingers trembling as I set my worn purse on the table. A thin crust of cold settled in my bones. My breath was laboured, voice soft. Across from me, Tony shifted his gaze, refusing to meet my eyes. His guarded silence was a wall. I need to know what Clara plans, I said, voice barely above a whisper. Will she post the videos? Can they be removed? Tony's lips pressed tight. I'm just following orders. He pulled out his phone, inadvertently revealing thumbnails, unedited clips, each raw and uncut, ready for release. My muscles tensed. These were recorded without my permission. He shrugged. All sessions recorded. Clara wants to see what works. I swallowed the surge of panic. Every client trusting me was now caught in this web of manipulation. My reputation, my one steady income, slipping far beyond reach. Each moment this continued, clients cancelled, doubts spread. Then Ruth arrived, her brittle smile cutting through the stale air. She held a small tablet, playing a clip unedited, my voice uneven, questioning the truth she'd accused me of faking. Every hesitation, every doubt laid bare. You've lost control, she said, voice cold. These videos? We have backups. They'll go viral in less than 48 hours if you don't cooperate. My hands rested on the table, knuckles white. The familiar tremor in my voice betrayed my calm. Please, there must be something I can do. Ruth shook her head. Clara's network moves fast. Once these are out, your clients vanish. Your income dries up. Even your home is at risk. I bit back a sigh. The clock weighed heavier with every passing second. 42 hours to salvage what was left. Alice joined us, watching my fingers nervously trace the frayed edge of my apron. Her sly half-smile offered no relief. You don't get to decide anymore. You're not in control. The raw footage they carried wasn't just proof. It was a weapon, wielded expertly to paint me as untrustworthy, a woman losing grip on her own abilities. How can you threaten me with these? I asked, voice barely steady. They don't show the truth. Tony's eyes flashed with fleeting regret. Truth is what Clara sells. You're the story now. I closed my eyes momentarily, fight draining against their cold certainty. Yet beneath the fatigue, a spark remained. Ruth leaned forward. Think carefully. We hold the cameras, the edits, the uploads, your reputation, clients, future. All depend on us. A small mirrored glint caught my eye on the table. A cracked shard of forgotten glass. A sharp reminder. Every fragment mattered. I nodded slowly. Then I need to speak with Clara. Tony just smiled, but the smirk didn't reach his eyes. This meeting marked a turning point. No longer the one directing my story. I was now a hostage to their edits, their timing. My doubts, once private, were now weapons they brandished without mercy. My voice faltered as I stood, the worn chair creaking under fragile weight. 42 hours remained, and the actors had seized the narrative. I had only one choice left: face Clara and fight for the truth before the world saw what they wanted. I sat in the library's public Wi-Fi area, the worn wooden table cold beneath my trembling hands. 10,000 views in hours. That number blinked relentlessly on my laptop screen. Clara's edited clips circulated faster than I could respond. Each highlight stitched to misrepresent my work, accompanied by sharp accusations from paid actors. I scrolled through comments. Hostile remarks piled atop one another, some mocking, others accusing me of fraud. My skin tingled, the weight settling deeper in my chest. If these videos were shared widely, my income would vanish, my trust erased, possibly even my home. 48 hours remained before the planned release. I opened a message from my trusted colleague. Their steady voice from our phone call yesterday still echoed softly. Keep gathering proof. The edits aren't seamless. Their words gave me a fragile anchor. I downloaded the latest clips Clara's network uploaded. The edits flashed sharply, chopped phrases, altered expressions, voices taken out of context. Footage shifted to create false narratives. Ruth's brittle smile faded into nasty accusations. Alice's sly half-smile followed, eyes tracking my smallest gestures. Tony's guarded gaze pressed hard through the screen. Clara's plan moved like a tide. My hands shook more strongly now. I reached for a small mirror on the table's edge, tracing the deepening creases on my face with tired eyes under the harsh library light. Grey strands caught in the glow. I folded my faded dress's apron over my knees, fingers trembling not just from stress. A ping pulled me back, a notification. New comment thread, 400 replies. I clicked. Among the flood of anger, a cluster of messages stood out. Maybe she's genuine, one said. We should hear her side. Another added, this might be a setup. A subtle tremor ran through me, hope mingled with fear. Some viewers saw through the storm. I started typing replies cautiously, carefully. I wouldn't deny the edits existed. That would confirm guilt. Instead, I posted clipped responses, showing the full sessions, asking questions others ignored. I shared evidence I'd gathered, the raw footage, timestamps, voice inconsistencies, methods used to splice clips. Clicks alone wouldn't save me, but they could tilt the balance. Minutes drifted into an hour. My phone vibrated silently inside my worn coat pocket. It was Ruth, insistently requesting a private meeting under vague terms. Alice messaged next, hinting at increased pressure from Clara. More clips planned, more actors ready. I stood slowly, muscles stiff, breathing uneven. I walked outside. The spring air was cool and sharp on my skin, desperate for calm. 42 hours left. The viral content would soon reach beyond local watchers. Back inside, I opened a secure chat with a few clients who had stayed loyal. Their cautious words steadied me. "We believe you," one wrote. "We'll speak up." Another promised to share my rebuttals within their network. I folded my hands on the table, long fingers clenched. Clara wanted to crush me publicly, erase years of trust and care with a few crafted lies. But here, in this fragile alliance, I found a flicker of resistance. I would fight to take back the narrative, one message at a time, with fading strength but steady resolve. My reputation, my income, my home, all depended on these next hours. And for now, that flicker was enough. The sun dipped behind the tall oaks, shading my front porch as I settled into the worn wooden chair, my hands trembling while adjusting the faded apron around my waist. 36 hours remained before the damning video Clara's people threatened to release. Every movement felt slower now. My joints stiffened, and my breath came uneven. Stray silver strands of hair escaped their pins, brushing my creased cheeks as I scanned the emails on my laptop again. One message caught my eye. An intercepted email titled exposé final edit.mp4, confirming Clara's network planned to upload the clip within 24 hours. The file name echoed through my mind like a countdown. They weren't hiding. They were boasting, perfectly timing their strike. My effort to trap them by sending a false session location could collapse the moment they traced it, exposing me instead. I rehearsed the plan silently, running through every detail. The actors, Tony, Ruth, Alice, were cautious. Each step required precision. They suspected any unusual arrangement, and their instincts were razor-sharp. Yet I needed their arrival at the decoy address to gather undeniable proof. My slow, deliberate movements risked giving me away before we could trap them. But retreat wasn't an option. Losing this battle meant losing everything. Outside, the porch creaked under a late breeze stirring dry leaves. I glanced down at the small mirror flickering under the porch light. My reflection looked back, weary eyes shadowed by silver strands. I whispered, "Hold steady." The trap depended on me masking hesitation. Suddenly, a ping alerted me. The intercepted email revealed edits beyond cuts, a deliberate distortion of truth. Clara's team wasn't just staging scenes. They twisted reality with surgical precision, weaving lies through every frame. I downloaded the suspicious clips again, eyes straining for inconsistencies. Faces warped subtly, voices shifted. The actors' practiced lines hid desperation beneath the surface. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, documenting every alteration carefully. Then, a new message appeared. The upload window narrowed to 24 hours. From my porch chair, the sharp weight of exposure settled in. If I failed, the false address could backfire, unmasking my methods to Clara's network. The actors might piece together my moves, turning the trap on me. Determined, I rose slowly, laptop under my arm, stepping toward the walkway. Each creak beneath my boots echoed the ticking clock. Near the mailbox, a loose floorboard caught my eye, an overlooked risk in the plan. Had they been watching me all along? My breath hitched, as the cool evening air thickened, mingling with the scent of damp earth. The line between hunter and hunted blurred. This wasn't just a fight for reputation, it was survival. Back inside, I checked the clock. 35 hours left. Failure was not an option. I sat again, clutching the laptop's edge, drafting my response. Partial footage exposing manipulations, layered with calm explanation. The few clients still trusting me depended on it, but trust felt fragile, slipping like sand through fingers worn by doubt. Outside, faint footsteps echoed, a reminder that the actors might arrive sooner than expected, wary yet persistent. The trap was set, their approach imminent. If they uncovered my false lead too soon, Clara's scheme would overshadow every precaution. Yet if I survived this storm, I might still hold the truth. One frame, one word, one piece of evidence at a time. Obstacle, public. Cost, resource loss. Anchor. If her session is exposed publicly, I lose income and reputation, possibly my home. I sank into the cracked vinyl chair in the internet cafe on 5th Street. The buzzing fluorescent lights above cast a harsh, cold glow. 26 hours remained before Clara Jenks planned to release her edited video. My laptop's screen flickered under my trembling fingers. Each wasted hour chipped away at my chances. I dialed the platform's support hotline, voice soft but firm. The line clicked. An automated voice answered. "We're experiencing high volume. Estimated wait time. Over 1 hour." My breathing hitched. I typed a message into the platform's report form, attaching the original and manipulated footage. Policies barred immediate takedowns unless copyright or privacy violations were clear. Clara's work skirted those edges. Minutes dragged by. Staring at the slow spinning wheel, I downloaded recent uploads from Clara's accounts. The network of actors had already posted fragments of her new edits, snippets crafted to sow doubt about my authenticity, directly contradicting my published rebuttals. My thinning client list flashed at the screen's edge. 5 cancellations in 2 days. Tony's face popped up in one clip, lips mouthing false confessions. Ruth's brittle smile framed another. The actors' performances felt rehearsed, cold. Clara's team thrived on control. Public distrust was their weapon. My phone buzzed. I glanced down, but saw only an unfamiliar notification without threatening content. I swallowed a lump in my throat. Though the message was unclear, the stress tightened the noose around my credibility. Back on the platform, I clicked Request Review again, attaching timestamps pointing out the edits. The system replied, "Requests queued. Processing may take 24 to 72 hours. A delay I couldn't afford. I glanced up. The cafe's quiet hum masked my rising panic. The scent of stale coffee mixed with old paper filled the air. Surveillance felt closer these days, every conversation cautious. A shadow lingered near the corner, eyes fixed on my screen. Paranoia or not, I couldn't stop. Suddenly, a notification surfaced. A partial leak, hours ahead of schedule. A 30-second clip from Clara's team had slipped through the platform's filters, circulating on lesser-known video hubs. The editing was sharper, the accusations sharper still. Comments flooded in, some neutral, others mocking and unkind. The seed Clara planted was sprouting quickly. I downloaded the clip for evidence and prepared my response. My hands shook as I uploaded footage with clear timestamps exposing the montage's fabrication. But each upload felt like shouting into a storm, drowned by a tide of suspicion. The clock ticked relentlessly. The full exposé was imminent, the platform's automated uploader unstoppable. I eyed the faded photo, dated April 12th, 1978, lying beside my laptop, a fragile reminder of what I aimed to protect. Minutes later, a new email arrived from a trusted colleague. Public support wanes. Media watch intensifies. Prepare for fallout. The weight landed heavier. I closed my eyes briefly, lips pressed tight. Facing Clara's campaign meant facing the unraveling of years, my work, my home, my livelihood. The leak marked a turning point. The final countdown had begun. I rose slowly. My worn dress creaked with the movement. Tomorrow, the video would be everywhere. I had to be ready. The small garden was quiet, except for the dry leaves rustling as I settled into my worn armchair. The laptop flickered beside me, the screen finally showing Clara Jenks's full exposé, poised to shatter the fragile trust I had left. I adjusted my faded dress and smoothed the frayed apron over my lap. My hands trembled. Grey hair fell forward as tired eyes locked on the playback. The video opened with familiar faces. Tony, Ruth, Alice. Their roles, however, had been twisted beyond the intercepted emails or earlier leaks. I watched manipulated clips stitch together scenes never recorded. My voice and gestures contorted to suggest harm I never caused. False confessions were inserted seamlessly, blaming me for accidents I had only ever tried to prevent. The accusations grew darker and faster, neglect, threats where none existed. My mouth went dry. I paused the footage. The timestamp read 13:04:26, nearly 2 hours in, yet the worst was still unfolding. The faint scent of damp earth hovered in the air outside, but I barely noticed. I scanned the edits frame by frame, every sharp cut deepening the false narrative, pushing me toward ruin. Clara's team had surpassed slander. This was character assassination crafted by digital artisans and acted out by paid performers. Ruth's brittle, forced smile flickered on screen as she recounted obvious lies. Alice's sly half-smile froze mid-sentence, clearly edited to cast me as unstable and dangerous. My voice cracked in a whisper. This goes beyond anything they said before. My pulse tightened beneath aging skin. Exhaustion pressed down like a heavy shroud. Client cancellations had already begun. I pictured the empty chairs in my small office, the oppressive silence left in the wake of lost trust. A sharp ping interrupted. A message from my trusted colleague. Voice notes sent hours prior. His words confirmed my fears. Public outrage was swelling, Clara's actors riding that wave, steering the discussion away from any truth. The video was spreading faster than any simple takedown could halt. Platforms hesitated. Policy rules slowed removal. I leaned back slowly, muscles stiff. My weathered hands opened the small mirror resting on my lap, tracing the deep creases on my face. The stream was nearly halfway through, and damage was mounting everywhere. Carefully, I tapped the keyboard, noting exact timestamps when fabrications began. A plan emerged, cautious but crucial. I would prepare a response, not angry, but factual, exposing the edits and naming those behind the unauthorized insertions. Precision was my defense. Any misstep might only fuel Clara's fire. I exhaled as the playback reached its final segment, the sharp tightness in my chest, a grim reminder that the real cost lay well beyond these digital pixels. Each manipulated accusation had the power to ruin not only my income but my home, the place tied to decades of work. In a voice low but steady, I spoke aloud. Truth will have to break through this, or everything's lost. The clock ticked relentlessly. 12 hours remained before the full release hit prime networks and social media. I closed the laptop slowly, folding my hands on the worn apron. No longer just a facilitator of spirits, I was now guardian of my own reality, a lone figure standing against a crafted lie, with time slipping away with every distorted second. The community centre's meeting room filled slowly. Plastic chairs, cold and stiff, lined the walls under bare bulbs, buzzing faintly overhead. I smoothed my faded apron, trying to steady my trembling hands. The clock on the far wall ticked past 36 hours since the first clip of Clara's video leaked online. I felt the worn armchair at my back as I settled in, grey hair pulled tight against the dull air, cheeks creased with exhaustion and worry. A few clients sat cautiously near the front, their eyes wary but craving answers. Others hovered closer to the door, whispers fading when I looked up. The door clicked. Tony slipped in quietly, casting guarded glances. Ruth and Alice lingered near the sidelines, their brittle smiles stiff and watchful. Clara's actors were here, their presence an unspoken threat weighing on the room. I began speaking softly, voice strained yet resolute. I understand the doubt. There are recordings circulating, altered footage mixing truth with falsehood. My eyes scanned the crowd, steadying despite the pressure pressing down. These clips show scenes taken out of context. They don't reflect the full sessions. A hand shot up near the back. A client's voice cut through the murmurs, harsh and accusing. How do we know you're not hiding something? These videos look real. I swallowed, feeling the tremor creep into my words. I have uploaded time-stamped originals. Anyone can compare. I am not perfect, but I cannot fake what I do. Some distortions were added after recording. Tony moved closer, voice low and mocking. Funny how your followers vanished overnight. Nervous shifts spread like wildfire. Doubt took hold, infecting some faces. Then, slowly a few familiar faces rose. One woman held up a faded envelope. This is from April 12th, 1978, she said steadily. A photo and letters. They were with me since I began sessions here. The scenes in Clara's video don't mention this. It proves part of her edits are false. Another client stepped forward, an elderly man clutching printed documents. We recorded conversations matching the original videos. I'm here to confirm they were doctored. The room quieted, eyes flicking between skeptics and now emboldened supporters. Ruth's brittle smile faltered. Alice's sly half-smile tightened. Their presence felt less certain amid growing quiet. I nodded, relief washing over me despite my trembling. Thank you. It means everything. You helped clear what was manipulated. Questions continued, some sharp, others tentative, but I answered each precisely, exposing discrepancies. The actors' hostile whispers grew subdued. The narrative Clara spun was unraveling, piece by piece, though the full video loomed ahead like a shadow. The clock pressed on. My voice grew thin, hands unsteady as doubt gave way to cautious hope. The edited footage fabricating new, false claims framed me beyond my actual faults. Clara aimed to destroy every thread of trust, but here, among those who stayed, there was a chance to rebuild. For now, they stood with me. The room held its breath, the stale air thick with tension, balanced between exposure and survival as the next wave approached. The radio station's lobby smelled faintly of burned coffee, mingling with the stale chill of recycled air. I sat in the waiting room, hands resting on my faded apron, its fabric worn thin from countless sessions. My grey hair was loosely pulled back, revealing creased cheeks and tired eyes shadowed by sleepless nights. The clock ticked relentlessly toward my scheduled interview, 6 hours before airing, just 3 days after Clara Jenks's exposé had flooded the web. Inside, a producer called me softly. "You're live in 10. My voice was unsteady, but deliberate as I followed to the cramped studio, where the microphone sat like a silent judge. This wasn't a simple interview. It was a battlefield. Clara's video had spread quickly, mixing real footage with manipulated clips designed to discredit me utterly. Clients cancelled appointments, whispered doubts surrounded me behind guarded smiles. I had to set the record straight. The host fired clipped questions, each laced with the same implication. Did I recruit actors? Was I fabricating spiritual contacts? I responded calmly, presenting original timestamps I'd brought, contrasting them with the doctored scenes. "These video segments have been altered," I said, voice soft but resolute, "to paint me as unstable and deceitful." A slide appeared behind us, showing side-by-side frames, highlighting edits Clara's team inserted, added pauses, false reactions, and spliced conversations. As the interview pressed on, a new twist arose. Tony, one of the actors Clara hired, was identified in footage from a local cafe. Witnesses had come forward online, exposing his role as an accomplice. The producer whispered updates as I spoke. More videos appeared overnight, fresh distortions growing like weeds, part of Clara's calculated campaign. The smear was evolving despite my efforts. Midway through, the tone shifted. The host revealed evidence from an anonymous source inside Clara's circle, a whistleblower exposing unethical editing and scripted false confessions. The network's involvement was more brazen than anyone realized. For the first time, public sentiment wavered. Questions moved from my guilt toward the exposé's tactics. Near the program's end, a live caller connected. A client who had attended my sessions and recorded their experience privately. Their voice trembled slightly, but their support was firm, recounting precise details Clara's videos omitted. This moment pierced the thick veil of doubt, pushing listeners to reconsider. Walking back through the station's corridors, I felt the public gaze shift subtly but tangibly. Calls and messages poured in, some skeptical, but many cautiously hopeful. I knew this fragile window might close fast. Clara's network was relentless. Just as I prepared to leave, a producer handed me a screen showing the latest uploaded clip, a new video, supposedly proving my entire operation a sham. But this one went further, layering fabricated accusations over previous lies. Clara's campaign had escalated again, rewriting the story with darker falsehoods. I gripped the worn armrest of my chair, the clock ticking closer to midnight. My livelihood, reputation, and the fragile hope of regaining trust balanced on a knife's edge. The fight was far from over.